Your Honor, I believe Mr. Callahan wanted to address that.
Okay, whoever wants to address.
Judge, I've had the opportunity of conferring with the defendant in regards to whether the jury should be given the option of second degree murder. And conferring with him has been a decision to not request the murder, to charge the jury instead.
Well, based on the evidence that was presented in this particular case, I don't believe an instruction for second-degree murder would be appropriate, even if the defendant wanted it. His defense is that it's not him, so the issue is identification.
That's correct. My concern, though, was that it isn't necessarily
It's a lesser included.
Correct. So I defer to the defense. The defense has made the record. I'm ready to proceed. Thank you.
Bring the jury out. You may be seated. Madam Prosecutor, ready with your closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being here every day, on time, diligent, ready to work, taking notes, showing up in a pandemic. Thank you so much for your time in this case. Now, this is a case about hate. It's a case about self-hate. And you know, back on May 25th, around 2:30 in the morning, the defendant encountered victims in this case at a gas station. And you know that Paris was hitting on him and coming on to him pretty hard. And the defendant, you see him, goes in and out of the gas station, and then when he goes home, you know, he's thinking about it. He's not sure. Even before it happens, he's not sure how he feels about it. He started at 18. When the defendant goes home, this is at 2:45 a.m. when the defendant leaves the BP gas station. Okay? You remember earlier that evening he was wearing that light-colored clothing, and you see this is that connection, that house that catches the Buckingham address from the BP gas station. And you see the defendant, he's walking, he looks back, stops, keeps going home, turns around, maybe I'll go, maybe I'll do this. Stops, nope. Thinking about it. Continues on, maybe I'm gonna go. Stops again. Heads back towards his house. And when he passes that car, the house is between that car and then you can see the car in the other driveway. That's his home on Buckingham. He passes it and keeps going towards Brunswick. Okay? Now remember, Blair testified that when he leaves the gas station, that he's lost his wallet. He's not sure where his wallet is. He doesn't go directly back to the Devonshire house. And what you see on the video is that the defendant, in fact, comes back up Haverhill, and you saw him again at the gas station, kind of throwing his arms up and then walking back down Haverhill. And then you heard Blair tell you that, in fact, the defendant came from the Brunswick area. He came from Brunswick, not from Mac. So, and you see that on the video, the defendant leaning down Haverhill, and you know that he ultimately ends up over at the Devonshire house. Now, while at the Devonshire house, what happens? The defendant, you just saw him pacing. Should I go? Should I not go? I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do this. And he ultimately ends up over at Devonshire. And what happens over there is not your routine hookup, okay? It is multiple people performing oral sex on the defendant. This is not your average hookup. It's extreme. It's extraordinary, okay? And Blair tells you that during this time that there are people running up and down the stairs going, oh, he gay, he gay. You know, everyone's laughing, running around. It is craziness. And the defendant finally leaves. And when he leaves, he walks back towards his house in Buckingham, this time on Mack Avenue. And you saw him. He stops. He passes that BP gas station, passes the door, comes back, and he kind of dry heaves and spits. Dry heaves and spits. And then he goes back to his house at 4:03 a.m. And now you know that there's a call at 4:50 a.m. from Sabrina Bates' phone. It's like a butt dial. It doesn't actually pick up in this case, all right? But it's a call to the mom, no time. But you know the defendant, who's in possession of this phone at this time, he's up, He's awake at 4:50 a.m. So what's happening between 4:03 and 4:50 a.m.? Now, do you remember that statement that the defendant gave you in this case? The defendant, when he's talking to the police, it's the thing. Don't nobody know. It's the thing. Everybody finding out. What's my uncle going to say? What's my pop's going to say? What's my mom going to say? And he's in that house for almost 50 minutes thinking about what he's just done. And he knows that those people over there on Devonshire, they're loud, they're out, they're proud, they're laughing about it. This is not going to stay a secret. Everybody in that neighborhood is going to know what went down at that Devonshire house. And he knows it. And it's the thing. Everybody finding out. So he puts on dark clothing, he puts on a ski mask, and then he heads back over to Devonshire. You see at 4:53 a.m., a figure emerging from that house and heading towards Brunswick. Now this is 8 minutes, okay? 4:53 to 5:01 a.m. That's that time frame that we're dealing with. So at 4:53, so at 4:53 a.m., so watching between remember that call was at 4:50 a.m. and then at 4:53 we have a figure coming from the house, headed towards Brunswick. And this is the direction that you're going to see 4:47 a.m. the shooter running towards Brunswick. And what happens during this time? The defendant walks those 2 short blocks over to Devonshire, and he has to eliminate the threat. He has to make sure nobody finds out what happened. And in that house, he enters and just starts shooting immediately. Because he has to kill everyone there. Because if everyone's not dead, somebody can talk about what happened in that case. So he comes in the house, blasting. Everyone gets up from the table and just flees and runs. Alunte shot twice. Paris is shot 4 times. Timothy is shot 4 times. Blair barricades himself in that bathroom. He can hear his friends screaming. Timothy runs down to the basement with Armand. Armand's trying to save Timothy. And they immediately start calling 911 as soon as they hear that shooter. Remember, Blair says, I hear him run down the steps. He refers to him as a he. And they're calling 911 and they're trying to save their friends' lives. And you know that the police end up within minutes of this happening. So at 4:57, looking up towards that right-hand corner of the screen. Now remember, the 4 minutes before this, there is no video. Okay, this camera is motion activated, but it's motion activated for what's happening more local to the camera. What happens across the street is not triggering it. But we get lucky, and at 4:57, this is adjusted 42 seconds to 4:58. Look at that. Right back down the street to Brunswick, in the direction of Buckingham. That person is fit. They are moving fast. (5:01 a.m. back to defendant's house. It's just 2 blocks. And you're going to see him coming from Brunswick. This is the area, 4:58, running 2 blocks down, 5:01, coming back into the house. See that figure going right up into the yard? This is where 3440 Buckingham is. Now what happens? It's 5 in the morning. The police arrive within minutes. Okay? And Detective Williams tells you that the first responders come, then more police come, and more police come. They start doing canvassing of the neighborhood. There is heavy police presence over here. This is the defendant's house on Buckingham. Now the defendant is realizing that he has just made a very bad situation much, much worse. So he gets up and he's out. Saturday morning, he leaves this house, never to return again. It is a week and a half before the police are able to locate him. Now you remember that they pull that BP video They have to use facial recognition to try to get a positive identification on the defendant. Now, at this time, Detective Williams has in her custody that video from Devonshire. It is clear that the shooter comes out of the house, heads towards Brunswick, and heads in the direction of Buckingham. They get an identification on that other man who was in the house, that stranger who received sexual favors that night, and he lives on Buckingham. That's the direction the shooter goes. And then when they go out on Tuesday to try to find him and talk to anyone in his house, he's gone. He's not there anymore. And his mother is gone too. Only Sabrina Bates is there, and we'll talk about that later. So a week and a half passes. And the defendant is found on the other side of the city on Claremont. Okay? And the police only find him, not through any help from defendant's family members in this case, they only find him because of an anonymous tip. Now you heard that Mom blames Daryl Eugene Jackson for telling on the defendant in this case. The defense brought that up. People are allowed to report anonymously. We allow people to report anonymously. That is for their safety. That is because people are afraid. We don't want people to not report homicide suspects to us because they're afraid of being outed. So this tip, it's good. And all the tips that they're getting in this case only have to do with the defendant, because this detective is following up on every lead she can find. Every lead she can find. So the defendant's out here in these red shorts, sitting out on the porch, and you're going to hear that jail call again in just a little bit, where Mom is complaining that he was outside in those red shorts, getting himself caught, not laying low, not allowing people to do stuff for him. Instead, he's out on the porch being careless. That's because Mom is complicit in hiding this defendant at this point, from the day of the shooting up until police catch him on June 5th. So the defendant's taken into custody. And the defendant starts to talk to them. Now, I want you to pay attention to this statement, okay? Every time this defendant has any contact with anyone, it's all about stonewalling, running, hiding, not talking about what happened, being careful when talking about what happened, making them prove it, okay? He's not going to admit to anything he doesn't have to admit to. Now, you know that when he's taken into custody, he knows he's been all over the news. He knows it. He tells them that in the interview. But when he sits down, what's the first thing he says? The police say, "Do you know why you're here?" And he says, I'm not really sure why I'm here. Now, you've been on the run for a week and a half. You're about to tell the police you've seen yourself on the news. He knows why he's there, but this is what you're gonna, this consistency you're gonna see what the defendant does. Let's see what you got. Let's see what you got. Okay? So if he starts off, not sure why I'm there. You know he's been on the news. You're gonna hear these jail calls again where he's all upset that someone gave his location. Mom's mad about it too, mad about him being careless. He's been on the run for over a week and a half. And he admits to contact with Paris only. And that is only after the detective in this case says to him, in referencing that video of him in the gas station with Paris, "Oh man, you got your DNA everywhere." Well, the defendant knows that he ejaculated with Paris. So that makes sense to him. So yeah, okay, yeah, I was in the house. Yeah, I came with Paris. He knows. But remember, Paris was taken away from the scene because she survived for just a little bit. So she's not like Timothy, and she's not like Alunte, where we got to swap their hands. Remember that? Because she was taken and tried to save her life, but he doesn't know that. But he knows that he ejaculated, and he knows it's likely his DNA is on him. So he says, "Yeah, I was there earlier that night. That's why my DNA is there." To explain that. But we know that his DNA is on Timothy. We know they swabbed Timothy's hands, and his genetic material is on Timothy. Now, when the shooting happens, there's no testimony or evidence that when he's doing the shooting that he's touching any of the victims' things. All the touching was earlier in that night. Now, this is important because the defendant, again, he doesn't know why he's there being interviewed initially, but he's not going to tell them either. He's not going to tell them he had sexual contact with other people in the house that night. That DNA on Timothy is from earlier. And yes, it is a much bigger deal to admit to having oral sex with multiple people than just one person when it's the thing everybody's going to find out. And that's what the defendant tells you. You get this motive. Now, if you didn't know before, you could see in the video that trepidation. Should I go? Should I not go? I'm going to go. I'm going to do this. No, I'm not going to do this. I'm going home. Nope, I'm going. And then he verifies that in his statement, talking about how it's the thing. Nobody knows. Everybody's finding out. What's my mom going to say? What's my pop's going to say? I'm going to be disowned. Then he says at the very end, I went to sleep. Now that's after Sergeant Todd starts to get kind of frustrated with them and is like, we got video of you coming in and out of the house. Now remember, at this time, that video of him coming, that's never been released to the public. He has no reason to know that we have that exists. And what is his initial reaction? We got video of you coming in and out of the house. Now, he knows he's been wearing a mask. He thinks he's been careful, and he kind of pauses. And then it's just back to Stonewall. And then he says, went to sleep, never left the house again after I came back from Devonshire. And when we listen to those jail calls again, you know what's really interesting in this case? When mom is complaining over and over again, 1, 2 times, Sabrina talking to the police, Sabrina can't be a witness. She can't be a witness. You were in the house where I was at. You can't be a witness. And then she talks about it a second time. She's in the house with me when this happens. She can't be a witness. You know what's never said during those calls? Mom never says, and you were in the house with me too, Devon, so we know you didn't do it. You don't hear Devon saying, and I was in the house with you too, Mom and Sabrina, so obviously it wasn't me. Think about those jail calls. We're going to play some clips for you. Because everything is focused towards make them prove it. It's never, oh, this is so horrible for you, defendant. This is so horrible for you, son, cousin, brother. It's wait and see what they got. Let's wait and see what they got. And all these calls are before the conclusion of that probable cause hearing. That was at 36 to 4. All right. Let's talk about the scene in this case before we get to the calls. We know that the defendant wore a mask, okay? Now, does this mean that every time a shooter disguises himself, that we can never know for sure who it was? No, that is absolutely not the case. You don't get to put on a mask and get away with mass murder. You have to follow the evidence. You have to do the work. You have to listen to what the witnesses tell you and all the other evidence in this case. So what kind of evidence, what kind of physical evidence would you expect from a scene like this? All right, the defendant comes in through the front door and is just shooting. He's not touching anything at that time. He's not doing anything other than shooting and then getting out and getting back home. So we have casings left at the scene, right? And we know he comes in through the front door. So we know you're going to wonder what we did for testing. What do we do? How do we try to link up this evidence? There's swabbings done at that front door and that security door. Now, you heard testimony from the expert. I know that that's really hard testimony to sit there and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's very complicated. But the long and short of it is, we do try to get DNA. We try. But because it's a front door, now you think about when you came in this door today, everybody touching that door. When you go in the jury room, when you use the bathroom, everybody is touching the same door. It's no different in this house. Everybody's touching the same door. And we don't get anyone's DNA profile off of it because it's too complex. Because when you have a kind of sample where everybody is touching the same thing, you just can't get a profile. It's too complex. Our science can't do it. But we want you to know that we tried. Now the casings that are left at the scene, those are collected. They are fingerprinted. You heard Hacker tell you that in his entire career, the thousands and thousands and thousands of casings that he's tested, not once has he ever gotten a fingerprint off of the casing. And it's just also because of the nature of the casings. They're in a firearm. They're heated when they're fired. It's just the nature of it. We also swab those casings. Can we get DNA off any of these casings? And the answer is no, we cannot. We were able to get a partial profile, but it's not enough genetic material to tell us who it is. And again, you heard from the expert that this is common. Their policy is not even to take casings into the lab and swab them because they don't generate evidentiary value very often. And they didn't in this case. And it's not because we didn't do the work. It's not because we didn't try. It's just the nature of the evidence. Okay? We don't have a gun in this case. The defendant was gone for a week and a half. You know that there were search warrants executed at Mother's house on Buckingham. She's all upset because of what Sabrina said that allowed them to get that probable cause to hit that house, execute that search warrant. She's upset about it. That defendant is gone for a week and a half. And nobody's talking to the police. The people who know him are not talking to the police. That's because he's in hiding and his mother's helping him hide. And so is the rest of the family. Remember that call? Somebody had to give him my location. Mom's saying, you should have been laying low, you shouldn't have been out on the porch, you should have been letting everybody do everything for you. You can't be out like that. He is in hiding. He does not get the benefit for getting out of that neighborhood and taking everything with him, and we can't find him for a week and a half. He's all over the news, and nobody related to that defendant is going to talk to the police about where he is. There's a reason he got up and got out of the neighborhood that morning. That's because it's him on that video. And he had to get out, and that family is going to rally around him and do everything they can to prevent us from solving this case. Detective Williams didn't just stop with the defendant. She's looking at everybody who was in that house that she can identify that night. There is no evidence that anybody else went back to do the shooting. It doesn't exist. All of the evidence in this case points right to the defendant. She even went to find Miss Brink. Tiffany Brink, had a problem earlier in the night with the individuals in that house acting up near her home. She lived on Haverhill, that street in between Devonshire and Buckingham. And Miss Brink voluntarily gives her firearm over to them, and they don't just take her for her word, they take that firearm, they compare it to the casings. That firearm does not match the casings in the house. It's not Miss Brink. They follow up with Brendan's mother. They follow up with Lance. They follow up with everything that they can, anybody who they know is in the house. Kirk Tatum, looking at phone records. There is nothing on this record that shows that anyone other than the defendant left that house on Buckingham for 8 minutes at the time of the shooting, and then came running back towards Buckingham, and then is on the jail calls talking about maybe taking a 25-year plea if it comes down to it. All right. We got 8 minutes. 8 minutes. 4:53 a.m. to 5:01 a.m. The defense would have you believe that some random person wandering out of defendant's house at the exact time of the shooting in this case, that it's just some unhappy chance that somebody else in that house happened to wander over in that direction, comes running out after the shooting back towards Buckingham, back into the house at 5:01 a.m. They want you to believe that someone just took an 8-minute walk from his house back on May 25th. Now I want you to think about all the other evidence in this case and what makes sense. The defendant, it's not just his 8-minute walk, but he then vacates the neighborhood after this happens and doesn't come back and goes into hiding. Let's talk about Sabrina Bates. Sabrina Bates comes in here and she testifies, and she is different from the mom in this case because she initially didn't shut it down. She initially talks to the police when they show up, and that's a problem for her, okay, because she sets up that timeline, she admits to him having that phone, she creates a problem for the defense in this case. And she knows it. And she comes in here and she tries really, really hard to not admit to what she said to the police. Now you think about how she testifies in conjunction with those jail calls and the fact that the defendant went into hiding and everything his family did to keep him away. She comes in here, she sits down, and she doesn't want to admit to what she said. She finally does. I think we're like 15 minutes into her testimony before she's finally like, yes, I did say that. He left on Saturday. Mom left the next day with the suitcase. And she doesn't want to say that the defendant had friends come back and pick up his clothing after being asked several times. Maybe look at her statement. Yes, I did say that. It's a problem. And you also know that at the preliminary exam, the second day of that preliminary exam, that she actually had to be detained and brought into court. Now, she's associated with the defendant's family. I want you to think about why she doesn't want to talk to us, why she doesn't want to tell you what she said initially. She doesn't want to tell you because it matters. Because it is significant that right after that 8-minute walk that the defendant took from the house at the exact time of the shooting, he's vanished from the neighborhood. Now, when Sabrina testified, everything that Mr. Callanan said to her, everything was, oh yes, yes, yes. And she is going to do whatever she can to help the defense because she knows she messed up initially talking to the police. When Mr. Callanan starts asking her about, oh, well, maybe there were other people in that house that night. She just starts agreeing with them. Oh, yeah, I had a boyfriend at that time. Sometimes he would stay there. And, oh, yeah, there's another woman, and she has a boyfriend. Sometimes she would stay there. Or she's the one that told the police that she was sleeping on the couch. She would sleep on the couch across from the defendant. And there's no talk of any other strange men in this house up until Mr. Callanan starts asking her about it. And you know what? When you listen to those calls again with the mother, You're never, ever, ever, ever going to hear the mom complaining in the context of Sabrina can't know because Sabrina was here with me when this happened. You're never going to hear her talk about, oh, there were other strange men in this house. Maybe they were coming and going. And, oh no, somebody else staying in this house accidentally got my son caught up in this when they decided to just take an 8-minute walk that night, 5 in the morning. And then the defendant tried to say that, oh, Miss Bates, the defendant doesn't even live on Buckingham, right? He doesn't live there. It's not even his house. But you know, going back to 2018, that's been his address. They have no other record of him living anywhere else. The mom in the call actually refers to not going back over on Buckingham, and then the defendant, in his statement to the police, actually refers to Buckingham as his home. There is a reason the defense wants to distance themselves from Buckingham, because that 8-minute video, that clip, that's a problem. It's a big problem. All right, we're going to talk about these calls. The first one is on June 12th. This is after the defendant is taken into custody. The first clip you're going to hear involves the mom. Now the mom in this first clip is complaining about how everybody out there is talking about how the defendant is gay. Now this is defendant's worst fears, right? He knows how his mom is going to feel. Later on in this call, you are going to hear mom when he says, oh, I told them I was gay to get rid of the hate crime stuff. She does walk it back. She kind of pauses and she's like, all right, you know you can come to me. But her initial reaction to defendant is, oh, you know everybody is out here saying you're gay, that's pissing me off. And what is the defendant? Yeah, that's pissing me off too. That's pissing me off too. Don't let me get out and hear that. Now, do you remember when we were talking about how when you confront your child and your child watches you watch them do something wrong, child knows, mom knows, child did something wrong, but it's just this reflexive, it's not me, I didn't do it. So mom is going off about him being gay, and he's like, yeah, that pisses me off too. Don't let me get out and hear them be saying that. And then she's going on and on about how people are coming up to her, some random girl is talking about how he's the shooter, and she's saying, you just can't say that my child's a shooter. He's like, I didn't, Mom. And then it keeps going on. So let's listen to that call first, and then we're going to listen to the rest of the call, okay?
I know.
They don't give a fuck. That's like bro talk.
Friday though.
They don't give a fuck about you. You feel me? I wish I could remember that motherfucking lawyer name that Kevin had.
Right.
Because he was a cold ass
Quarter pointer.
hell yeah.
I forget his name too.
Yeah, everybody making me mad trying to.
You may. Thank you.
I'm telling you that shit now.
I know.
They don't give a fuck. That's like bro talk.
Friday though.
They don't give a fuck about you. You feel me? I wish I could remember that motherfucking lawyer name that Kevin had.
Right.
Because he was a cold ass
Quarter pointer.
hell yeah.
I forget his name too.
Yeah, everybody making me mad, trying to say, hey, you fuck with the niggas, and you know everybody out here trying to act like you gay, right?
Yeah.
That shit pissing me off.
And don't let me be out. It's gonna piss me all the way off. You talk to Chris, then
Then they trying to make it seem like it's a hate crime. And I'm like, motherfuckers, just, man, this shit so fucking crazy, dog. I work with these motherfuckers. People, a girl walked up to me saying she been knowing you forever. And she could, and like I told her, y'all can't just say my son pulled the fucking trigger. You feel me?
Right. You said a girl walked up to you and said she knew me forever.
Yeah.
And she know how I am. People who know me know how I am.
She was like, I would have never thought little Devon would have did something like that.
I did.
All right, then it's going to switch. There's this talk about the defendant. There's no evidence I'm coming home by Friday. Now this is going to be this common theme throughout all the calls of if there's no evidence, wait for it. You're going to hear mom saying, we're going to pray for the best. You're going to hear uncle asking, is it good or is it bad? You're going to hear the sister saying, you need to think about if there's any more witnesses. So as we go through this, the whole family here, it's never, oh no, poor Devon. It's, let's wait and see what they have at the conclusion of this case. So in the next clip that we're going to play, he's saying if there's no evidence, and mom, because they're waiting for this preliminary exam, and mom is saying, well, at least you don't have a co-defendant. They're talking about Davion, the brother. In his case, they didn't really have any evidence, but, he had that co-defendant to worry about. In this case, you don't got that to worry about. That means there isn't a second person that can roll over on you and tell on you. Let's play that clip.
Yeah, I'd probably be dressed like a Muslim without
Right.
That's why I'm going to be there too.
Look, if it ain't no evidence to charge me by my court date, they got to let me go.
Not necessarily, Devin. They just can't do what they Rod did. Because they ain't had nothing against him. And he pled to that shit, but you ain't got to worry about no co-defendant. You feel me? That's what he was worried about, his co-defendant.
Right. I told the police I was gay.
Okay.
Yeah. So that should be out the window, that hate crime shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that's coming from.
Well, my thing is, if you ever felt like that way or something, don't be never afraid to come to me with that shit. Don't keep that kind of shit from me.
I'm not. You know I'm not.
But I don't even see it. Marty said the same shit. Marty said, I fuck with your baby. Let me get gay.
Did you talk to Chris?
I told you I ain't talked to him. That's nobody else to come by.
So this is the defendant, again, not wanting to acknowledge to mom about him being gay. Right? And mom is the one who has been complicit in his hiding out for this last week and a half. Mom knows what's up. She doesn't want to know what's up, but she knows. So in the next clip we're going to play, you're going to hear the mom saying, we ain't going back over on Buckingham. Okay? This residence that the defense so badly wants to distance themselves from. And you're going to hear these next two clips where mom is complaining about Sabrina. She's furious that Sabrina has talked to the police, and they haven't gotten their discovery packet yet, so they don't know exactly what kind of information Sabrina has given to the police. And mom's worried about it, and he's worried about it, and they're talking about, let's wait and see what we have. And mom is going off, she can't say she's a witness, she can't be a witness, she's in the house with me at the time. Bitch, how are you going to say you're a witness when you're at home with me when this is happening? And you're never going to hear the defendant say, yeah, I was with you too. And you're never going to hear mom say, yeah, you were with us too. It's just, we have rallied the troops, we have taken care of the defendant, and this woman is talking to the police, and it's a problem. And so they're waiting for the outcome of that. Let's put this one. How y'all helping this bitch so I can be safe when I'm on my way home?
Right.
We ain't going back to Buckingham.
I know.
That bitch Sabrina said some shit. I'm trying to figure out. That bitch Sabrina talked to the police like 2 hours, that bitch Sabrina talked to the police for like 2 hours. I don't know what the fuck she said to him, but when we get this discovery pack, we don't know exactly what she said to him. And she told, the word is, she told him they said she was a witness. But I'm like, how the fuck is she a witness? When you was at the crib sleep, bitch, you running your mouth, the bitch is trying to get some money or something. I'm telling you, dog. I don't know. How y'all?
None of that.
I know, because I know nothing she say. I ain't even worried about nothing like that, because, bitch, I know you was in the house where I was at, so you can't witness to shit.
Right. Oh, my fucking God.
Right. Then this call goes on, and you're going to hear the defendant in this case talking with his mom about potential penalties. And the mom and him are both talking about what kind of penalties murder can bring. Okay? And the mom is, we're just going to pray for the best, and you're going to hear the defendant, it comes down to it, they say like 25 years, if it comes down to it. He's talking about, he knows what he's facing, and if he can get a 25-year plea, he's going to consider taking it.
7.
And that bitch can even run concurrent or back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
We just gonna pray for the best.
That's why I said, if it comes down to it, they say 25, something like that. If it comes down to it.
Man. I was going in and out the motherfuckers on Facebook, and that's why I stay on there, you feel me, because that shit's too much for me, and I can't take it, and I be out with my big mouth. I've been trying to open my mouth, you feel me, and just sit back and let all these.
After this clip, you can listen to this again when you go in the back. We're actually going to give you a laptop, so you will have access to everything. You can watch everything as much as you want. You can listen to everything as much as you want. After this point in the call, this is when the defendant, he starts to get emotional talking to mom, and he's apologizing for putting y'all through this. Now, when he shows this emotion, yes, it's good to see him show some emotion and some humanity. But I want you to realize that that is only for himself. That empathy is for himself because he's caught, and he's scared because he's caught, and he feels bad for putting his mom in this situation. It's not, I can't believe I'm in here, I'm totally innocent, I didn't do this. It's, I'm sorry for putting y'all through this. Okay? And I want you to remember back to when you watched that video of him talking to the police on June 5th. He was Mr. Tough Guy then. He's talking about being engaged with someone who has been violently murdered, and there is no emotion, there is no empathy. There is no care for those individuals in the house that were killed. He doesn't show any emotion for them, but he does, at this point after he's caught, show it for himself. The next clip you're going to hear, he's complaining about somebody had to give up his location, and mom is complaining that he wasn't being careful enough being outside in those red shorts.
Somebody has to tell them my location too.
So you were being outside too much.
You know, mom knows. Mom knows. Now, they're being careful on these calls because they're being recorded. And it's a hard thing to talk about, but at no time do you hear the mom saying, you were here with me when this happened. And you don't hear the defendant saying that either. Because mom knows. So much so that she tried to hide him, and she's mad at him for not being more careful when he's supposed to be in hiding. The next two calls are going to be to the uncle and to the sister. One of them is on June 15th. The one with the girl is going to be in between those preliminary exam dates. Remember, you heard testimony that at preliminary exam, that probable cause hearing in front of the judge. The first day is just the two witnesses. It's Blair and Armand. And then the next day, it's going to be the video. She hasn't seen yet as of the call. So it's the video that you see, that 8 minutes, that between 4:53 and 5:01. And there's this concern now about another witness. Now, the defendant knows he was wearing a mask, and you're going to hear him in the last call representing that there's only two witnesses, but there's concern. Again, the sister, is there anybody else that we need to be worried about? The defendant's like, no, it's just a video. And you're going to hear him at the end of the call, that third call, saying, we're going to know either way where we stand. We're going to know either way how it's going to shake out at the end when we get back into court next time. And again, you're not going to hear him say, this is a travesty, I can't believe I'm here, I'm totally innocent. It's all about, let's wait and see what they have. Now, before we play those clips, remember, defendant wore a mask to that house that night. And you have Blair sitting on that stand, and Blair tells you that it's the defendant. And he tells you that he did not say that initially. He tells you that after a couple days, he was hysterical in that call. He had just witnessed his friend brutally murdered, trying to tell the police what happened. He was totally hysterical. But then he does come back and he says, look, the shooter, just like the guy we picked up at the gas station with the light skin and the eyes. And then he got really frustrated up here trying to testify and being cross-examined because he knows what happened to him. So you can question his identification all you want, but you have to take that identification into account with all of the other evidence in this case. Okay? This happened to him. He is in the best position to tell you what happened in that house that night because he survived it, he lived it, and to have to sit there and be cross-examined and questioned that you don't know what you saw, you don't know what happened to you. Yeah, he lost it. Blew up. What do we have to do to make you see that he's responsible for this? He survived. And he has to sit in a courtroom with the person that murdered his friends and almost killed him. That is terrifying. And when you think about Blair's testimony and his identification, I want you to think about these last two calls. Because it's all calculated. It's all about, let's see what they have. Is it bad? Is it good? They're trying to be careful again because they're being recorded. But it's all calculated. See what they have. Let's start with that next clip in June 12, or June 15.
So he said he don't know much about much. Yeah, he told me somewhat. He told me what Sabrina said. Was that bad or good? It wasn't really nothing. Oh, so he read her statement. Yeah, she just basically said I had her phone. Yeah, she kept talking about that damn phone. Yeah.
It's important to realize that he's talked to his attorney, Mr. Callan, at this point about what Sabrina said. They haven't physically seen the paper yet because they don't have the discovery packet yet. He's relying on what his attorney has told him about that statement. So the only information that has gotten to him now is about that phone. They don't know yet that we're tracking her down, trying to get her to testify regarding when he left the neighborhood and the timing of that. So they don't know about any of this yet. But they're concerned. He definitely wanted to know what Sabrina said. And again, it's never, I didn't do this, I'm not worried about anything she said. It's, let's just wait and see what we have.
What's up with Mama talking about this new witness and shit? You talking to your lawyer about that?
It's a video.
No, bro. No, it's not.
What new witness they talking about then?
Bro, I don't know for sure. I'm hearing shit. I don't know.
You know before we left out the courtroom, right?
Right. Listen to me, though, bro. Listen to me, bro. I don't know, but it's not no video. If it's a video, they got a video and another person. I know for sure they got a person, bro.
Oh, my mama got to get on the stand.
Your mama?
Yeah, she got to get on the stand. That's why they put her out the courtroom.
Oh, okay.
Because she a witness. That's the only witness I can think of. Those are the only two witnesses.
All right, bro, but that's all you can think of, and leave that there.
Right.
And that's what it shit. Period. But just think. Don't overthink this shit, but just think, bro. And
right.
I don't know. But
my lawyer gonna come visit me tomorrow or Monday. Huh?
Yeah, that's something you need to holler at your lawyer, though, for sure.
Right, that's why I need the money on the phone so I can call his ass.
Right. The motherfuckers be talking, they be talking about, and then shit gets spread around and bitch off some bullshit because motherfuckers be talking.
Right. And we know Tuesday, we know.
Right with it, right, exactly. So she gonna come out either or, but I don't.
This call, his sister's pushing him. You need to think. Is there anyone else? He knows how many people are in that house. He knows who's wearing masks. He hasn't gotten to see this video that we have yet, and he hasn't heard from Sabrina yet. And sister, what's she doing? It's not, oh, this is terrible, and how can you be in here? And he's not saying, oh, this is terrible, how can I be in here? It wasn't me. It's just, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see how it's all going to shake on Tuesday. We'll know then how this is all going to shake out. This happened because the defendant didn't want anyone to know about his sexuality. He went home that night and he knew that they were all going to be talking. It was all going to be all over the neighborhood. You heard even Armand tell you he moved out of that neighborhood because he didn't feel like he could be a gay male in that neighborhood. And I know you're going to hear about how the mom has a girlfriend and how the sister has a girlfriend too. The reality is, for this family, it is different for men. And you hear that from the defendant's mouth. It's the thing. Everybody was going to know. Everybody was going to find out. My mom was going to find out. My dad was going to disown me. He came home that night, right after this happened, after spitting and gagging, and went into his house and didn't know what to do because this oral sex with multiple men is about to be all over the neighborhood. And so he makes an even stupider decision to get dressed in black clothing, head down towards Brunswick, over to Devonshire, kill all these people, come running back out towards Buckingham, back in the house. Again, you would have to believe, after all of this, that some random person went for an 8-minute walk at the exact time of the shooting. That's not what happened. This is the defendant. The defendant did this. And then after doing that and realizing all the police that were coming to the neighborhood got out of there, and his family circled around him and they did not cooperate, and they did not talk to the police, and they did not say anything to anyone until someone gave a tip to the police, and they found him hiding out on the other side of the city. And then he tells you about how he didn't want people to find out. And he only admits to things when he believes that the officers are telling him the truth, like about finding DNA. But he'll only admit what he has to, right? Because he's not going to talk about having oral sex with other people in that house, even though his DNA is on Timothy Blancher. And then it's him on these jail calls, repeatedly. What is the family saying? We're going to pray for the best. We're going to wait and see what they have. Defendant saying, if it comes down to it, I'll consider a 25-year plea. I'm sorry I put y'all through this. I'm going to have one more time to address you. And when I do, I'm going to ask that you hold the defendant responsible for killing 3 people in that house and for almost killing 2 others. Thank you.